And ladies and gentlemen, we are extremely fortunate to have with us today a much sought after speaker. He is a gentleman who speaks often at barn raisings, chicken fights, and local hog killings. Ladies and gentlemen, from Possum Gap, deep in the mountains of North Georgia, here is the one and only Happy Callahan. Happy Callahan.
Oh, howdy, y'all. Oh, Lord, you got a big crowd out here today. Good night living, y'all. Y'all must have been putting on a big feed out here. We couldn't get this big a crowd in our church if we'd have put on a whole hog killing. Ooh, I'm telling you. I heard that there feller tell y'all that I'm from up at Possum Gap. Now, how many of y'all know where that's at? You don't? Well, now let me tell you where it is, so y'all can come up there and see me sometime. Well, now what you do is you get up here on this main highway right out there, and you stay on that main road all the way up there to Hiawassee, Georgia. And when you come in up there to Hiawassee, Georgia, you're going to stay on that main street all the way in there to town. And when you come in, you're going to come into the courthouse. And when you get there to the courthouse, you're going to hang a left. Now, of course, that's all you can hang when you get there, so left anyhow. But you're going to hang that left there at the courthouse. And you're going to start going out, and you're going to look for the signs now. Now, we ain't got a heap of signs up there where I come from. But the first one you're going to see, it says Coochie. Coochie, that's talking about Coochie Creek. Yeah, well, you're going to pass over Coochie. Then you're going to start looking for the first dirt road to your right. Well, y'all, that's our road there. Y'all, we have done and named our dirt road. Yes, we have. And I mean, we are proud of it, too. They put us up a sign out there with our dirt road name on it. It's called County Maintained Road. Yeah. I mean, we proud of that new dirt road name. Got our sign up there, big old black letters on it, you know. And y'all, everybody up to home, you know, we all just about kinfolk anyhow. And we ain't got a big crowd of people up there where I live, you know, up there in Possum Gap. And I want to tell y'all about my friend Luther. Me and Luther, we've been friends all our lives. And me and Luther went to school together. Luther Snodgrass is his name. Me and Luther, we went to school together. We graduated together. 5th grade. Yeah. Special education. Sure did, y'all. And I mean, Luther now, he was the valedictionarian in our class. He was. And I mean, he was smart. That boy was smart. He was. And we know that Luther's going to make something out of himself one day. Sure enough, we did. And I heard tell not long ago that Luther had heard the call to preach. Yeah! Y'all, I ain't never known nobody what heard the call to preach. I don't know what kind of hearing you got to have to hear that kind of call. But I seen Luther. I seen him over close to home one evening. And so I just thought I'd ask him about it, you know. So I asked him, I said, Luther, I hear that you have heard the call to preach. And he said, yeah, Happy, that's right. I sure did. I said, well, Luther, when you hear that call, did you have to go take some kind of examination or something? And he said, no, I didn't take no kind of examination or nothing. He said, I went down there to the big church, you know, the first church was the onlyest church we got. You know? He said, I went down there and I talked to the big preacher up there to the church, and I asked him about getting me a church. And I said, well, what did he say? And he said, well, he asked me a whole bunch of questions, you know. And I said, well, what kind of questions did he ask you? He said, well, first thing he asked me was, could I read? And he said, I told him, no, I couldn't read. He said, well, can you write? He said, I told him, no, I couldn't write neither. But he said, I don't see what that's got to do with preaching. He said, you know, preaching's just talking. And he said, well, if you can't read, you can't write. He said, what do you know the Bible? He said, whoo-wee, preacher, I know that Bible. He said, I know that thing from lid to lid. He said, well, which part of the Bible, Luther, do you like the best? And he said, I like the book of Mark, preacher. He said, well, what part of the book of Mark do you like? And he said, I like them parables, what's over there in the book of Mark. He said, well, which one of them parables? And he said, that there about the Good Samaritan, that's my specialty. He said, well, Luther, would you tell me that parable of the Good Samaritan? So Luther said, I sure will. He said, it goes like this here. He said, there was this here man, what was a-traveling down the road, and he was going from Jerusalem over to Jericho. And while he was a-traveling, he fell among the thorns. Yeah, and the thorns, they sprang up and they was choking. Well, he laid there by the road nigh about days, you know. And who should come along but the Queen of Sheba herself? Yeah, she did. And she was driving horse and wagon. And she got out and she helped the old boy. And she gave him 1,000 talents of gold and 100 changes of raiments. She did. And then she gave him a horse and wagon. Yeah. Well, he thought he was going to make good time now, you know, getting to Jericho. So he was tearing that road up, you know, whooping that horse up, and they was tearing down that road. Well, you know, men folk back in them Bible days, they didn't have nice, neat haircuts, you know, like we have now. He had this here long hair, and the wind was blowing it out behind his head. And he come flying up under this here juniper tree, and his hair got rocked around the limbs of that there juniper tree. And that horse just kept a-going, and he was left hanging up there in that juniper tree. Yeah! And y'all, he hung up there many a day and many a night. And while he was hanging up there, the ravens bring him water to eat and food, water to drink and food to eat. And you know what they bring him? 5,000 loaves of bread. Yeah, and 2 little fish. They sure did. Well, while he was hanging up there asleep one night, his wife, Delilah, come along. She had been out looking for that old boy because he ain't come home. Well, she seen him hanging up there in that tree asleep. Well, she had her some shears, and she got up there and she worked on that old boy's hair and cut it off, and he fell to the stony ground. Well, he got up and he commenced to tear off down that road again toward Jericho. Well, when he got a little ways down that road, y'all, it commenced to rain. It rained and it rained and it rained. You know how many days it rained?
40.
Yeah, 40 days and 40 nights. ate locusts and honey. Well, it finally quit raining, and he got on that road again toward Jericho. Well, he come in there on that main street down Jericho, and he was walking in, and he looked up in this here window, and who was sitting up there in that tower window but old Queen Jezebel herself? Yeah! And she looked down at him walking along there, and she just laughed at him. Like that there. And he looked up at her and he hollered, "Y'all throw her down." They grabbed that old gal, they throwed her down. He said, "Throw her down again." They come down there, they dragged her back up there, and they throwed her down again. You know how many times they throwed her down? 70 times 7. And of the fragments what remained, they picked up 12 baskets. Sure did. And then they hollered out, "Blessed be the peacemaker." And Luther told the preacher, he said, "Now every one of them parables has got a moral to it, you know, it's got a bottom line." Preacher said, "Well, I am awaiting to hear what that one's bottom line is all about." Luther said, "Well, preacher, the whole thing boils down to this year. Whose wife you think she's going to be come Jezebel?" That's right. Luther said, "I want a church now, preacher. You think I can get one?" Preacher said, "Well, Luther," he said, "why don't you go home and wait? We'll call you. You won't have to call us." So, you know, I'm just plumb excited for Luther, you know. I'm just waiting for him to get that call that he's got a church, you know. But y'all, now I want to tell you about the biggest news up to home. Ooh, y'all. I told y'all I'm up at Possum Gap. And up there, about the biggest news is we have done and got us a new preacher to the Baptist church. Yeah. Now, we ain't got nothing up there where I come from except the Baptist and the Methodist. The Baptist is on one side of the road, and the Methodist, they's on the other side of the road. And it don't matter which way you come into town, it's always like that. The Baptists, they take the first and the third. The Methodists, they take the second and the fourth. I mean, we found out you get a heap bigger crowd when you do it that way. And everybody's been used to getting the fifth Sunday off anytime. And we hadn't had a preacher up there to the Baptist church in about 7 or 8 months. I think they had run off the line. I mean, I didn't mean to say that. I mean, the Lyston had resigned them and left. About 7 or 8 months. And they had got them up this year finding committee. And Pa Perkins, Pa is the manager down there. He owns a general store up there in Possum Gap. And he was the chairman of the finding committee to find a new preacher for the Baptist church. Well, y'all, they look here and yonder and everywhere. I mean, they couldn't hardly find there anywhere. They finally run up on this old fella over there across Copper's Hill in the Duckstown settlement, right across the Tennessee line. They brung him down there to do what they called a tryout. Yeah. Now, I did not get to go the day he come to do his tryout, you know. But I knowed I would hear all about it the next day. And I went down to the post office first thing the next day. I walked in there and they was talking about that new preacher. Woo, Reverend Brimstone was his name. Reverend Ezra Brimstone. They had done and called him, y'all. Yeah! Ain't cured him but one time. Done and called him. Well, anyhow, I left out from there and I walked on down to the general store. And I seen my other good friend, Rufus. Rufus sits out there at the general store. There's a bench, you know, out there in the front. And he sits out there on that bench every day and draws. That's his job. He sits out there and draws welfare. But I know that Rufus would have been there and he would have heard that old boy preaching, you know. And so I went up there and I said, Rufus, y'all must have liked that old boy. I heard you done and called him. And he said, ooh, we had him. You gonna like this year. I mean to tell you, he got up there yesterday and he told them off. I said, well, what in the world did he preach about? He said, well, I don't rightly remember his text, you know. But I do remember he got up there and he told everybody in that church house he wouldn't be surprised if they wasn't a whole heap of them in there what was a-going to the devil. Yeah. I said, well, Rufus, I thought that was the reason y'all didn't like old Ledbetter and run him off. He got up there every Sunday and told everybody how mean it was. There's all a-going to the devil. Rufus said, well, yeah, that's right. He said, but there's a big difference in old Ledbetter and this new preacher. I said, well, you're going to have to splanify that one to me. He said, well, when old Ledbetter told everybody that they was acting ugly and they was going to the devil, he acted like he was plumb glad of it. Well, but what I want to tell y'all about is that our new preacher. He has done come up there, y'all, and he has done and organized our choir. Yeah! I bet you didn't know you could organize no choir, did you? I mean, there weren't nothing wrong with our singing before he got there. Biggest thing about church anyhow is getting everybody on in out the yard and hushing them up from talking. I mean, y'all, he's got them coming into the middle of the week now. Yeah! And got that choir coming and doing what he calls rehearsing. Yeah! You ever hear tell a sitch? Rehearsing. And I'll tell you what, it ain't in the Bible neither. No, I done looked. There ain't no rehearsing in the Bible. And what I don't understand is how can anybody think that they can tell to the middle of the week what the Spirit is going to move them to sing on Sunday. That's right. But anyhow, he's got them coming in up there or doing the rehearsing, and I mean, you ain't never seen nothing like our choir at our church now. Have you ever known any music folk? Any folks, have you ever noticed that they act like they know something you don't know? They do. I mean, you can't ignore them, y'all. I won't forget it. I can't never forget it, y'all. It was back, the first preaching Sunday back in October. I walked in there, and that new preacher was making some announcements. And he said something sounded like this here. I want to ask everybody here to be much in prayer for our Christmas can ta-ta. What is a honey? Yeah, I thought you weren't going to believe it. I was sitting right there and heard it, and I didn't believe it neither. I didn't know what he was talking about. So I was sitting inside of Rufus. So I nudged Rufus, and I said, "What is he talking about?" And Rufus said, "Hush, Happy, hush. He's just talking about the Christmas music what the choir is working on. And he's just asking everybody to pray for it." I said, "Well, I ain't." He said, "Well, why not?" I said, "Rufus, I don't pray for nothing that I don't know what it is. Because what would I do with it if the Lord was to give it to me?" And I mean, you know, I did the earth thing, y'all. But I mean, that was just the beginning, y'all. That was just the beginning of our whole thing. I went in there the very next preaching day. Y'all, remember now, we only do the first and the third. But I went in there the very next preaching day. He had took all the young boys in the church and he lined them up front. Well, I thought I knew what that was. You see, the very first week that our new preacher was there, he painted this year great big sign. It said, "Tired of sin, come on in." Yeah, it had great big red foot-high letters on it, y'all. And we was proud of it, because this was something the Methodists ain't even thought of. And about the only other big sign we got is one that's nailed up there on a pine tree down there on that main road on the curve. And it says, "Prepare to meet thy goal." Well, the D fell off. And we ain't found it down there in the weeds to nail it back up there. But anyhow, our church sits right up there on the mountain. And now our preacher had painted that great big sign with them big old red foot-high letters on it. "Tired of sin, come on in." And he had put that our sign down on that main road right there. So as you come up that main road, you see that sign and you see our church up there. And everybody would come up there and visit our church. Every year, especially in the fall, them Flatlanders come up there. Ooh, y'all, that's another story. Them Flatlanders. Every year they coming up there, lined up bumper to bumper down that main road out there. Say they're coming to see the leaves. Yeah. I want to go out there and snatch them car doors open and tell them to get out of them cars and help me rake them dang leaves. I ain't teasing y'all. They are bumper to bumper out there. Well, there's that sign out there, nailed up, you know, so everybody can see it. I do not know who done it, y'all. But they say some of the young folks loaded up in the pickup truck and they went over the mountain over there to one of them big towns like Chatsworth or them other big towns on the other side of Forts Mountain, where you can go to a store and buy one of them cans of paint what comes with a fizzer on top, you know. And honey, they come back over there and in the night they worked on that preacher's sign. Oh, y'all, it was shameful. got up the next morning, them Flatlanders was bumper to bumper out there on that main highway, and there was that preacher's sign out there. It said, "Tired of sin?" A question mark. Somebody had fizzed down under there. "If you ain't, you can call 555-2076. Oh, it was shameful. I mean, we couldn't get that sign down quick enough. I mean, they had worked on that preacher's sign. Well, when I seen them little boys lined up there in front of the church, I figured that he had done and caught the culprits what had worked on his sign, you know. No, that wasn't it at all. Before I knowed it, he took 2 of them boys and pulled them out there in front of all the rest of them and said, "I want y'all to see the 2 little angels that's going to be in our Christmas cantata." Angels, he calls them little devils. He don't know them like I do. Well, honey, I'm telling you, the next thing we heard about is he had done and talked to the Dickenses in our church. And he had talked to them about buying this year's chandelier contraption. And this year dimmer thing. Well, y'all, I don't know nothing about them things. But you know, in a Baptist church, if you're going to spend some money, you're going to have to vote on it. Well, talk got out about this year's chandelier. Well, they was a voting, so I decided I was going to go that night. And the preacher asked, "Did anybody have anything to say about that our chandelier?" And I told him, I said, "Preacher, I just don't see no sense in that thing." I said, "Ain't nobody in this church could spell chandelier, even if we could order one from Sears and Roebuck." And I said, "If we was to get it here, they ain't a soul here could play the thing." And I said, "The thing we need in this church more than anything is some new lights." And anyhow, they voted. They bought our chandelier thing, and then they bought this here dimmer thing that goes over there on the wall. Then, y'all, the talk got out that preacher was a-writing the music himself. What the choir was going to sing in that Christmas cantata. Yeah. Now, I'm telling you, that was about to tear our church up. I don't know how y'all feel about things like that down here, but up there, we do not think that it's a preacher's job to be composting on music. And I mean, folks was a-choosing up sides. Yeah. It was about to split our church apart. And I told everybody, I said, "Somebody needs to go talk to the old boy, you know. He's new and he's young, and somebody got to tell him about this here stuff." And wouldn't nobody go talk to him. Well, one evening, me and my wife was sitting to home, and we was watching the PTL, you know. And Sister Tammy Faye come on, and she commenced to cry, you know, and them tears just streaked her face with all that black makeup, you know. I mean, them black tears just streaked her face up good. I mean, it just touched my heart. And I just thought, oh, I got to go talk to that old boy before somebody gets real upset with him, you know. So I don't live too far from the church, you know. I just walk across the top of the mountain there and I can see the churchyard. So I just decided I'd go over there and talk to the old boy. So I walked over and looked down in the churchyard, and he was out there in the churchyard. And y'all, I'm telling you, he had been out there in the woods and looked like he had cut down every little sapling he could find in the woods. And he had done stripped them up and cut them apart and nailed them back together. And they looked like great big old Indian arrows sticking up out there in the churchyard. And I walked over there and I said, well, hey there, preacher. He said, well, hey, Happy. He said, I'll be with you in just a minute. He said, I'm about to finish up working on these candelabras right here. And I said, they are what, Reverend? He said, this year's candelabras. I said, what is that? And y'all, he had, them things looked like Indian arrows. He had bored holes all in the top of them. And he said, you see these here holes? He said, we're going to take candles. We're going to lodge candles down in them holes. I reckon that's where it gets its name, you know, candelabras. And he said, we're going to use these in the Christmas cantata. I said, well, preacher, I am glad you brung that thing up. I said, did you know that thing is about to tear our church up? And he said, what are you talking about? And I said, preacher, folks do not like what you have done. And then I just told him like it is. You know, I said, preacher, we ain't never done it like this before. And he looked at me and he said, Happy, you are ignorant. Yeah, that's what he said to me. Happy, you are ignorant. Yeah, but now I just took it now, you know, saying he's the preacher. And I said, well, preacher, he said to me, he said, a Christmas cantata is a wonderful thing. And I said, but preacher, everybody's so upset about all this stuff you have done. And you just bought that chandelier, that dimmer thing. You just christened and ordained them two little boys angels. And he said, but Happy, wait a minute, now let me explanify this. He said, we got them two